Hello. Yes. You are now listening to the sounds of Mr. Logical and 2-5, collectively known as Sports Reports as Ordered. We miss you, Shampoo, and your grams too. Tonight is Miami dead in the water. This guy says yes. We'll see what Mr. Logical has to say. Chris Paul, hit the bricks, kid. You're out of here. Phoenix will be better off in the long run. We'll see if they waive him or they trade him. Lionel Messi, I heard he was the GOAT. Now he's coming to the great old United States of America. Shout out MLS for getting it done. And then me and Raph got a few free agents that we want to revisit. Were they good deals? Were they bad deals? What do we think? So, Mr. Logical, Miami is so fortunate to not be down 3-0 right now.
Yeah, they played well in game 2.
They did, but I mean, every game in the series, they've been down at least 15 at some point or another.
Yeah, they definitely need to work on that for sure.
Yes. So, America, join us for unique sports perspectives that other people gonna take. But y'all better look at those timestamps and realize that we said it first. And if you ever, and I mean ever, hear anybody say butterscotch crimpets, call them out. Hit those comment sections. Don't even download their next episode. You know what I'm saying? But Mr. Logical, Miami. The heat is on.
Miami's a very, very good team. I feel I need to apologize for low-key disrespecting them by saying they're going to get swept. Because, I mean, we'll get to the game. Towards the end, it was way closer than the final score of 109-94. And it shouldn't have been, because I guess I was watching the game. I text you, and I'm like, yo, the lead was 21 at some point. It was something like 80, I think it was like 82-61 at some point, or 93-72 or something. It was something like that, where it's like, and then I look up and Bam's got a jumper that could have cut it to 7. And I'm like, I've been watching the game this whole time.
Yeah.
And I did not see the lead, but what was happening was that Denver got the lead. The role players that they had on the floor started, getting comfortable, taking shots. KCP, Bruce Brown, Michael Porter Jr., it was something like 3 for 17 or 3 for 18 last night. They missed a shot, and then Kyle Lowry will come down out of nowhere, shoot a little step back 3.
Fountain of youth.
And it just was like, then he'd get, then Duncan Robinson would just kind of throw something up. I think he had 2 in a row. So all of a sudden, that 19-point lead was like 11.
Mm-hmm.
But Eric Spoelstra was pulling the starters. And then Denver came down, got a layup. Duncan Robinson came down again and hit a 3, and it was 10. I was like, why are the starters out of the game? And then Malone called the timeout. Spo put everybody, I think he put Bam back in. He left Duncan Robinson. I think Lowry had slipped at that point. He might have taken him out, but he had Highsmith out there. But then they put the full court press on. Jamal Murray gets the ball, hits old boy. He hit him in his shoulder with his elbow. Mm-hmm. I don't think they would have, even if they would have reviewed it. But, in these playoffs, they've been calling it kind of ticky-tack.
Right.
So he gets, if they reviewed it and he gets a flagrant, that's 2 shots and the ball. So 2 shots in the ball. So that's now he's 7. And he ended up 3 and out of scores 4. It could have been that crazy if they would
Mhm.
have called that. But if it was a fifth, we all be drunk. I like Miami. Excuse me. I like the chances in Game 4 just because they didn't shoot great from 3.
Oh yeah, I
Jokic,
got it.
Jokic and Murray played 30-point triple doubles, even though Murray stayed out on the floor just to get that last rebound. I knew because he
Yo,
was searching
you
for it. You could see
you
how he was running around for it.
you remember when Ricky Davis tried to get the triple double?
Didn't he like shoot a layup at the wrong hoop
Yes.
to get the rebound?
That's when I knew his days were numbered.
I saw a guy call a timeout. I guess it was like he called a timeout so he can get his first triple double, but I think he needed points. So he called a timeout. Opposing coach is like, "Are you serious?" And he didn't even put his players on the floor. And then somebody passed the ball. He got the layup, or he like missed it on purpose, got the rebound, got the layup, and had like a triple double.
Yeah.
And it was like an 11, 10, 10 triple double, or something like that. It wasn't even like an important one. But like I said, I think watching Jokic against the Miami defenders, like I said, they were going to go through him and Jamal Murray the whole game. And then unfortunately, they had another role player step up. Oh boy, Christian Brown, even though his last name is spelled Braun. I don't care what you say, it is Braun. So he dropped like 21 points. But role players got to get hot. Like I think he was something like 9 for 10.
He was 8 for 9, and it usually
Yeah,
happens at home though. That's the thing.
yeah. You got it. Like you got it. He can't. Your most role players aren't going to get 16
A
shots.
wise man once said, Kenny and Chuck, to win those championships, it had to be the others.
The others.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far I think it's a good. I think it's a good series. I think Jokic can just get whatever he wants. And I noticed the difference between game 2 and game 3. Remember I saying in game 2, he just looked like when he was going to get those points, he was he was dropping back in defense a little bit, looking a little exhausted, a little winded. Even when the shot went through, he looked a little winded. Well, yesterday he just stayed at the top of the key, making moves. And then when they put Zeller on him, it was like, all right, let me go ahead and eat. But Jimmy Butler was doing the same thing.
No more Zeller.
Jimmy Butler caught the ball in the corner on the sideline in the 3-point range, probably, 22 feet from the hoop. He turned and had 2 dribbles, put his shoulder into Jamal Murray 2 times, and he was in the paint.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jamal Murray is just too small. Look, they said he was listed at 6'4", 215.
No, I told you, when I look at him, he looked like he's thicker, but he looks smaller than Steph.
2.5, 206.
Yeah, he looks smaller than Steph to me. He's just bigger.
He's 215 is a pipe dream.
Yeah, I heard somebody on a podcast say that he was 6'6" last week, and I was just like, yo, no, like just get some glasses for real.
He's listed at 6'4", 215, so that makes him 6'3", 205.
Yeah.
Jimmy, like literally 2 dribbles, boom, boom, shoulder, shoulder. He was in the paint. They were switching. I thought they switched a little too much off of Jimmy, and they took Gordon off him. Maybe they knew Gordon was going to get a little handsy, maybe get foul trouble. So they were like, all right, for this 4 or 5 minute block, we need Aaron out there, so we're going to have to switch it and play good help defense. But I mean, Miami did great. I think they have a great shot game 4. If they shoot 40% from 3, again, because they shot 49, basically we'll call it 50% game 2. And they shot 31% game 3.
Yeah, just go shoot 40%, y'all.
If you shoot 40, you shoot 40 at home, you might speed Jokic up a little bit. Because Jamal Murray is hitting a lot of jumpers. He wouldn't get a lot of action at the rim. Sometimes the guy's on. But, like I said, Jokic was getting in the paint. They couldn't really defend him, but I think he did a good job of like managing his energy, managing the flow of the game. And that's why they were able to get those leads.
Playoff Murray is the new playoff Rondo.
Playoff Rondo was legit.
I know.
It looked different.
So is playoff Murray. Jimmy Butler. minus 11 plus minus last night.
I'm not a big plus minus guy.
Well, I am. You know,
I'm not a big plus minus
well,
guy.
I am.
Not in an NBA game.
I am. You know,
In a game where it's like one goal at a time. Like if you're playing soccer, you're -4. Like okay, yeah, you didn't do shit.
so Miami had a satellite drop out the sky. Satellite Martin, Caleb. He was the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals allegedly. Now he's averaging 5.3 points on 29% shooting. Somehow he's shooting 44 from three, but 29 overall. So he's shooting pretty bad if he's shooting 29 overall while shooting 44 from three. That's step number one. Michael Porter Jr. You know how many minutes he played last night?
26, 27?
21. 21 minutes.
Because Brown was getting the points that they want Michael Porter Jr. to get.
Yeah, Porter went 1 for 7. And Christian Brown, the role players don't usually do this on the road, but I will have America know because they probably forgot that he had 12 points and 12 rebounds in that national title game against North Carolina a couple of years ago at Kansas. So maybe he's just one of these big games. Maybe he's what they say Austin Reeves is. I don't know. I'm just saying.
I mean, like I said, you need to see it go through the hoop. And that's why I was texting you last night. Like, Michael Porter has to get to the rim. But then he got to the rim and blew the layup, and I was like, he need to go to the bench.
So this
is not his night.
This is why Miami is done.
Book, please.
So this is why Miami is done. Even if they win another game, they're done. This is why they're done. Because, like I said, Denver has had a 15-point lead in every game of this series at some point. Denver shot 5 for 18 from 3 last night. For the series, Denver is only shooting 32.9% from 3. Miami shooting 37.6. So closer to that 40 that you were talking about.
Yeah.
If Denver is shooting that bad, still getting 15-point leads, I just don't see a path. I just don't see a path for Miami to win 3 more games. Because you imagine that Denver's going to at least have one game where they shoot regular, if you will, from 3-point range.
So where they shoot about 38 to 41%.
Yeah, something like so. So Miami last night went 11 for 35. You know,
after going like 16 for 30.
They were 17 for 35. They were 17
for 35.
Yeah. So Michael Porter in this series, 7 points, 8.7 rebounds. This is the killer right here. From the field, 25.8%. From 3, 16.8%. And Denver is still basically in command of this series. That's why I don't see the path for Miami to win this series. Even if they win another game, I just don't see them. And I said this at the beginning of the series. Even if it goes 7, Miami ain't winning.
Yeah, but if it goes 7, it's anybody's game.
It ain't everybody's game because Jimmy Butler got to show up.
But, I mean, with Miami, I don't think it's one of those situations where I don't think they need Jimmy Butler to – I think Denver needs Jokic and Murray to give you 24 to 28 points, 8 rebounds, 7-8 assists. Like, between the two of them, they need to get you like 20 rebounds and 18 assists. I think you need that because the Denver role players, I watch them not like I watched Bruce Brown when he's trying to be assertive, just throw the ball away. Like every time he comes down and it's like he wants to get into the flow, he just would dribble it off his foot or
I don't know what KCP doing.
Throwing a bad pass.
Yeah,
KCP wouldn't take shots unless Denver was on like a little run. Like if Jokic came down and hit a jumper, Murray hit a jumper, and then maybe they got a rebound. They were running. Then he would pull up. But when the ball was getting swung to him, a lot of times he wouldn't pull up. It's like they don't shoot like they're in rhythm. Mm-hmm. Whereas Miami, Duncan Robinson, If that ball gets swung to him, he's going to shoot it. Kyle Lowry is going to step to the side and shoot that long three. Gabe Vincent's going to pump fake and look for the three. So Miami's role players are going to shoot themselves into rhythm, whereas Denver is kind of not want to say waiting. They just operate through Jokic and Murray, and then Jokic and Murray's momentum is what is like a caveat for them to start playing. That's why everything was like crazy with this Christian Brown kid, is because he just was like, I'm gonna attack the rim. So you attack the rim, you get a good layup. He got the steal and the dunk. He came down and Jimmy Butler was defending him, and then he was right in front of, he's right at the rim. So he's defending him. He kind of flicks it up one hand and it goes in, but he had seen 5 shots go in because he took 1-3 to hit the side of the backboard.
Mm-hmm.
But he hustled down and got the offensive rebound, and then I think they ended up getting a foul and they were shooting free throws or whatever. But so even his bad shot, he hustled down and still made something happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like Michael Porter Jr., he missed a shot, crashed the board, got the rebound, went for the putback, and missed the layup. And like they were like, all right, he doesn't have it. And I think he came out of the game, and that's when the kid Brown came in, won his run.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce Brown's the same thing. But then they put him back in because like that's the rotation. You put KCP, Bruce Brown, Jokic. I think Jeff Green was out there, maybe Aaron Gordon. Murray was on the bench or something. No, I think Murray and Jokic, they played a lot of minutes, like 40 plus.
First teammates in finals history with triple doubles.
Yeah, but like I said,
I know. It is what it is. It's a stat. It's a stat.
I'm more impressed with the 20 points in the first half for Jamal Murray, and then Jokic coming out in the third quarter, and I think he went like 5 for 5 and then got free throws. I think he had like maybe 14 points in the third or something along those lines, somewhere in that range. But he hit his first 5 shots in the third. So you have Jamal Murray getting you 20 in the first, and then you come out at halftime and then get your points that way. So that works out too.
Yeah. So you remember game 1. I was talking about Bam with his 25 points on 26 shots. Well, last night, 21 shots for 22 points. That ain't going to get it done. That's just not going to get it done. I think that both teams are moving the ball around. Like, even beyond Jokic, they have the exact same assist percentage. So both teams are doing a good job of moving the ball. The reason that I called out Jimmy Butler is just from the standpoint of the general rule of thumb throughout history, besides like the Warriors, because they went in, added KD and everything. But generally speaking, the team with the best player has the advantage to win the finals. But Denver has the best 2 players.
They have the best 2 players, and their best 2 players like set the tone for the way their offense functions. Mm-hmm. Miami just happens to have a total game concept of, if you're on the floor, you do all of these jobs.
You know your role and you got to contribute.
Yeah, so it's like Duncan Robinson used to just be your spot up shooter, and then now he's cutting to the hoop. And this is something I got to credit Nick Wright for, because he got it from someone else and I heard it, so I want to repeat it. I want to give him credit for it. But what he said was, it's pretty interesting, but I don't know how true it is, but Eric Spoelstra will run similar to like a football team. You'll set up a play and you'll run it a couple of times early in the game. Maybe if it's successful, it helps a lot too. So you run this play in this situation, 3rd and 7, you set up this play and you run it. So now in the fourth quarter, same kind of situation. The defense is set up to be like, oh, this is the action that they're going to run. And then instead of Duncan Robinson or whatever jumping out for the 3, he cuts back door.
Right.
And that's why he's wide open at the rim. So something, I think that's what Miami could have a shot. Because at first, like I said, I called it a sweep until I watched the fourth quarter of game 1. And then I watched game 2. and then I watched the fourth quarter of game 3. There's just
Hey,
little
there's
spots.
like 6 quarters in there that you're disregarding.
No. I watched it all. But I'm talking about as far as like why I feel that Miami has. I think Miami can win game 4 because Jokic and Murray before Murray hit the got that last rebound, he still gave you like 30 and 10. But Bam Adebayo hits that jumper. The lead is 7 with the minute 15 left. When it was just 19 with like 6 minutes left. You know what I'm saying? So like that kind of grind at Miami, they just seem to out mentally just grind the other team to the point where you get that lead, but when we get that lead from 16 to 8, now your coach is calling timeouts. Now you worry. Now you're jumping out on Strus, and he's kicking it to Vincent, and now you're jumping out of Vincent, and now some Bam setting the screen for Duncan Robinson to get a wide open look,
right?
And or vice versa. Like any one of those 3 guys you can run action with those 3 guys versus Denver. I don't know if you're running action with Michael Porter Jr., KCP, and Bruce Brown. Like that action is going through. It's a good way to go through Joker. It's a good thing to go through Murray, but I think Miami can get a good looking 3 with Vincent, Strus, and Duncan Robinson, or Lowry, Vincent, and Duncan Robinson on the floor. I think they can make that action work. Or they just got to knock down the shot. So if they come out game 4 and at the end of the first, Miami's up 28-23, 28-24, somewhere in that range, it's like, okay, Miami's giving you that punch. Then Denver's going to have to go back to the Jokic, Jamal Murray thing. And they were trapping Jamal Murray. And he almost threw it away more than the one time he did, but he threw it away in the fourth. Because you get tired. You get tired of fighting over that trap. They made the adjustment by bringing, I think they brought Christian Brown up to catch it. They moved Jokic over. Instead of him, when he set the screen and they trapped, he came to the side so he couldn't get any help defense from behind. And then somebody else cut where Jokic would have normally been. So they're throwing it to the middle of the floor, you throw it to the side, and you move it that way. So they made the adjustment.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure Spo is going to make an adjustment to that. Like, okay, cool.
Right.
You're just going to let Jokic catch
the
it.
auto adjuster.
You step up and don't let the cutter come, and then we could just try to trap Jokic over here. So,
yep. And by the way, the Vegas Knights with the goal. So game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals up 2-0. Vegas is up 2-1 with 4:28 left in the second period. So, the other thing, that everybody made a big deal about coming into the series was the Denver size advantage. Last night they out-rebounded Miami 58-33. And so when you put all this together, it's just one game. It's just one game. But these are things like that rebound stat, maybe not out-rebounding them by 25, but this is something that Denver can do. Denver can out-rebound Miami by, say, 13 every game for the rest of the series. So that's where it becomes important to what you were saying, where after game 1, you said, what's the adjustment? I said, Miami just got to play better. They got to shoot better. That's the adjustment. You can't leave the rebounds out there for Denver to get.
because they're getting all of them.
Yeah, because they're getting all of them. Everybody wanted to know how Denver will react to adversity. Mike Tyson always said, everybody got a plan till they get punched in the mouth. Are you not satisfied? Denver came out and took that game by the horns. Yes, everything you said is true about Miami coming back late in both game 1 and game 3. And then they also obviously came out like gangbusters at the start of the fourth quarter in game 2. But like I was saying, there's 9 other quarters involved in that equation. Like Miami played good in those 3 quarters, but there's 9 other quarters that took place over the course of these 3 games.
But one of those quarters got them a win.
One of those quarters got them a win, and 2 of them did not.
2 didn't, and that's why they're down 2-1.
Law of probability here.
It's not. Listen, I'm not saying I wouldn't bank on that strategy, but I will attest to, like, my prediction is based off of past information I've learned.
Right.
So in regards to Miami, I think that the the way they pounce on you in the fourth quarter, there was a stat that popped up on the screen last night that NBA teams this season were like 1-117 by down, enter the fourth quarter down by 8 or some number like that. It was one and something triple digits. Miami was 4-5, now 4-6 in these playoffs, being down 8 entering the fourth quarter. So it is not a style you want to go with, but if you're a boxer and you're historically really, really, really good in 9, 10, 11, and 12, I don't think you panic if you're not doing great rounds 1 through 8 because intrinsically, I'm still good 9 through 12. I think Miami knows we can make adjustments based on what, because mainly, and I think this is kind of prevalent because the Denver role players, they're not making Miami pay for essentially there's no defensive adjustment on
Well,
KCP, Michael Porter Jr., or Aaron Gordon. None of these, like, there's no defensive attention given to them.
well,
Michael Porter, like, see, when Aaron Gordon got that rebound and got the dunk, he was being guarded, so to speak, by Max Struess, and he took it right to the rim and dunked it. I don't think Spo is making any real adjustments on those guys because they're flat out just not making any shots. So if the role players for Denver, the ones that play the most minutes, not the surprise guy off the bench, but
right.
like Bruce Brown, KCP, Michael Porter Jr., if they're not making their jumpers, then he can just stick to the strategy of let me get the ball out of Murray's hands, let me make Jokic go 41, 10, and 3 again, and we can win.
Right.
And I think if these role players, if they don't knock down shots in game 4, that's going to be the formula. Because when they weren't knocking down shots in game 2, Jokic was just Murray was on the bench a lot. That was one thing that I noticed in game 2 that was different in game 3. Game 3, Jokic and Murray, I think they matched their minutes a lot. They were on the floor together a long time. But it was working because they both got you over 60 points. But if Jamal Murray's jumper's not falling, because you can't just dribble through that zone and get to the rim.
Right.
So if the jumper's not falling for him, then Miami can keep that same defensive pressure on those two and turn Jokic into the guy that gets you 41, 10, and 3 again.
Well,
And
the
I
good,
think that's what they're banking on. That's what we talked about. We've been talking about that since we've been talking about Jokic in this playoff run.
well, the Miami fans, the good news for them is that they know that the Heat aren't going to cheddar bomb themselves. So Denver's going to have to beat them. Like Miami reminds me of, we were talking about Marcus Camby the other day and my guy Carmelo Travieso. And they had a slogan when Calipari was the coach, and they're on the back of their shooters shirts, it just said "refuse to lose." That's Miami. They refuse to lose. Like Denver has to pull out the machete, and that's where I would be a little concerned if I was a Denver fan. Is that why can you not? You're already up 15. Why can't you maintain that? You don't got to
Because
get it
the
up to
team you're playing,
you don't got
because
to get it. You
the
don't got to
team
get it
that
up
they're
to
playing,
25. I know, but you don't got to get it up to 25 or anything. But just maintain the 15-point lead.
it's hard, man. Like if think about this, like I said, think about this. You got Jimmy, Bam, Duncan, Lowry, Martin on the floor. None of these guys are world beaters. Bam Adebayo is really good at the position he plays, but he plays on the sides. Jimmy Butler's tenacity. Duncan Robinson is considered a defensive liability, but he's an offensive threat. Kyle Lowry is older, crafty, he'll grab the hell out of you. And Caleb Martin struggling. But
So
you can't leave, you can't leave any of those guys because the two-man action with Martin and Lowry could work. Jimmy Butler attracting attention, kicking at Duncan Robinson works. And that's why Miami is able to claw back in. Because if you put Kevin Love and you take Bam Adebayo out, you can still run that same action. If you put Strus and you put Duncan Robinson on the bench, it just seems like everybody that comes onto the floor for Miami is like they match the role of the person that they sub out. Whereas when Jamal Murray is on the bench, they put Reggie Jackson in the game. Game 2, he hadn't played. He played like under 20 minutes the whole playoffs because it's like you can't leave KCP out there and have him run the Jamal Murray action with Joker because he just doesn't. They don't.
Yeah, he doesn't do that.
Anymore.
Yeah,
Bruce Brown doesn't do it the same.
Reggie Jackson is a chucker.
Yo, at the end of the half, it was like, yeah, I mean, he's shooting that. Granted, it's the end of the half, but it was 6 seconds. He took like 8 dribbles and set it up and still shot like a 35-footer. But he's like, I'm not getting any more minutes. And that's the difference between what I think
Miami's role players. Yeah.
So that's why that lead that gets to 16 gets cut down to 8, because when your lead gets to 16, you take Jokic out or you take Jamal Murray out. I rarely take both of them out. I think it all has to go through one guy.
What I think is even more impressive, because I was running down the reasons of like the things that Denver weren't doing as good as Miami, but yet they're still winning. Like the other thing that stood out to me is that Miami's only averaging just a hair over 7 turnovers in this series. So in these 3 games, 23 turnovers total. Denver has 36, which isn't a lot, 12, per game or whatever case may be. But that's just another one of those things that the Heat are doing better than Denver. And it just doesn't matter yet. Maybe that'll add up as we go deeper into the series. If Miami can keep protecting the ball and get more shots for those guys that you're bringing up, maybe that'll help swing. I mean, look, it's a series. If it was over, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. So it is a series. And each game has its own identity.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I look at it like this. It's the same, or like I said, the same argument I had back when the Lakers played the Heat in 2020. It's not the same for Jokic, but Jimmy Butler had the 40-point triple doubles, and the Heat won 2 games. Jokic, with your 30-point triple doubles, and the Nuggets won both games because he got the 10 assists. Granted, 20 rebounds is like the fact that we're not even really like enamored with the fact that he went 32, 20, and 10. It just shows you how good of a basketball player he is.
Right.
We've been talking about this for 32 minutes, and that was the first time me mentioning he went 32, 20, and 10.
Right.
Like, it's just because he does that so well, and they get the wins.
Here's a question I just thought about while you were saying that. Like, it just popped into my head. Do you think that finals has an effect on how Jimmy's playing now? Because he's not necessarily trying to take over in that way. He's do you think it's a matchup thing, or do you think like he learned something in that finals?
I think they learned a lot about their team since then, because a lot of NBA teams have like fired coaches and cut players and traded young talent. It feels like a lot of teams made moves to try to manufacture a championship team. Whereas Miami, they were a 1 seed last year, and they were 8 this year. They didn't fire the coach. They didn't have a fire sale to trade.
They were literally probably a shot away from the finals last year.
Exactly.
If Jimmy hits that 3, who knows what happens?
So now we talk about Boston. Boston went to the NBA Finals last year, East Conference Finals this year, and we're ready. Like, not we, but the proverbial sense of like the fan base, they're ready to get rid of the coach and maybe move Brad Stevens back down to the bench. It's like all these crazy things are happening. Whereas Miami is like, yo, we were 1 seed last year, almost made the NBA Finals, and now we're in the play-in.
Brad Stevens away from the bench for a reason.
Yeah, so there's no panic. So I think Jimmy Butler, he just needs to play. He just needs to see the ball go through the hoop early, play better, because they kept switching people onto him. And Jeff Van Gundy was like, every person they switched on to him, he would say, "Yeah, that guy has the size, but he doesn't have the lateral quickness." Or this guy has a lateral quickness, but he doesn't have the size. And it was always some advantage Jimmy Butler had.
Right.
It's just that he has to make the layup, and he keeps
11,
pump faking.
11 for 24.
He has to just go up and get to the foul line because what he was doing, he was pump faking, pivoting, and they were just waiting on it because he did a lot. He did it against Boston.
Oh,
A lot when
he was doing the D Wade thing where he was just like shooting and throwing himself all over the floor, like, you know. And I'm like, you're not going to get that call right there.
See, but what he'd get to the paint and he would get 2 feet down, pump fake, pivot off of it, and they were just like, so the defense was just like one person will go here, and then the other person will go here, and then Jokic would just come over the top with his long arms. It's like, yo, you just got to take that into the chest of Jamal Murray. You got to take into the chest. Like, don't try to go around Jeff Green. Just go through him and get the foul and get the free throws.
I
That
don't
way they got
understand why they're not going at Jokic more. Like, this is not Anthony Davis that we're talking
he will
about.
let him go.
This is not
Like I
Clint
said, we talked
Capella.
about it.
Well, I mean, I
He will let
know,
it go.
but if he's going to let you go score.
What he's going to do, he swipes at the ball.
Yeah.
He doesn't get any body fouls because he doesn't jump.
Right.
But he just swipes in the area of the ball to make you do this.
He bounces.
He bounces, and that's it. I was watching, and then Aaron Gordon's the guy that jumps and gets the foul calls because like Jokic didn't get a third foul until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Gordon was in all kinds of foul trouble yesterday.
But that's what I said. They were switching them, and it was like, all right, you're gonna switch it. No, now you're gonna drop back because we need you to get through this, so then we can bring Jeff Green in for a few minutes.
So who's gonna bring in Chris Paul? Because I don't see it.
I mean, you ready to take this shot? Because I'm about to say my favorite thing. He has a lot of soft tissue injuries. And I tell people all the time, I've never been fast enough to pull a muscle like on my own. Just my speed and athleticism causes me to injure myself. Has never happened because I'm just not fast. So I don't know how long it takes to heal. Like I've never experienced that, any of those quad muscle pulls or hamstrings or calves. I've always been like a very even paced dude. Like I've just never been fast.
And he still got more injuries to come.
No quick twitch muscles and stuff for me. So
he's got a few more left because he 38 this year.
He's 38, but I mean, if you think about it, if depends on how he treats his body. Like if he treats it well, like if he's not out here drinking yak, smoking cigars every chance he gets, like 38 seems like a lot. The only thing about the 38 that would concern me is like, can you defend guys like Jalen Green? Can you defend Cade Cunningham? Can you defend some of these young big guards? Or what
was it? Patrick Beverly called him a cone.
Yeah, traffic cone. But you can be a traffic cone if you can run him to, let's say, Robert Williams. If you go to Boston, if you can kind of direct traffic that way. Because I saw something Gilbert Arenas, so I want to give him credit on his podcast. Marcus Smart is ranked 27th out of 30 starting point guards. And Derek Williams is ranked. Derek
White or
White? Yeah, Derek White is ranked 29th. So their point guard play in Boston could use a bit of an upgrade.
You know what? I'm so done with you right now. Literally, like 2 or 3 episodes ago, when we were talking about are they going to trade Jaylen Brown or whatever, I literally said Marcus Smart gotta go.
I didn't say he got to go, though. I don't think Marcus Smart has to go. I don't think he has to go. I just say you can just make him your 3-and-D 2 guard. Either you bring him off the bench as you can move him to your 3. You can make him your 3-and-D 2 guard, where he can just use all of his energy playing like the defensive player of the year and shooting open threes that are set up by Chris Paul. I'm not saying that's the move, but like if you bring in Chris Paul, I don't think you don't lose Marcus Smart's intensity versus like if Houston brought in Kyrie.
Somebody got to
you
go.
would lose like a couple of those guys minutes, like their opportunities to shine and show you what they can do. You can't do it when you bring in a guy like Kyrie because he doesn't set guys up.
I know, but somebody got to go. Like look at the Bulls, right? When Jordan was young, and he was scoring all the points. I think he even averaged 37 one year, and they were getting first round exits and whatnot. Then Scotty came in. They got some other pieces, and it started to take off. This unit has been together for 6 years now. They've got to all these conference finals. They got to the finals once. I'm not saying it needs to blow up. I'm just saying something's got to change.
We just talked about Miami. They played in 2020 with the young Tyler Hero, young Duncan Robinson, Bam Adebayo, Jimmy.
But Miami also doesn't come with the expectations that Boston has.
But that's the thing. We talked about the championship numbers in our pre-meeting. I think it's just this thing that they have expectations, but you and I have been alive since 1981, and they have 4 championships in that time frame. It seems like they have more because people talk about it like they have more, but I don't think the expectations are that high. I think the expectations are high now because they have success. They didn't have any success. What was it? They had very little success before they had the Boston 3 party with KG, Ray Allen, and Paul Pierce. The Paul Pierce Boston Celtics, I don't even know if they were making the playoffs. I know they were like bottom of the Eastern Conference.
He made the Eastern Conference Finals once.
Before the Boston 3 party.
Yeah, I believe he lost. I believe he lost to the Nets in one of the years that the Nets went to the finals.
Okay, so then, but even with that, that's not a championship standard. So then they had their 2 NBA finals in 3 years, and in the middle they had an opportunity to put the Miami Heatles down. Didn't happen. So now Boston's expectations,
2002,
are based like Boston's expectations for championships are based on the group that's there now. So I don't think you blow that group up and still have expectations. But I do think you can bring in CP3 and your Jaylen Brown production won't change. It could improve. Your Tatum, production could improve. And then you can just have Marcus Smart play your 3-and-D shooting guard. You could bring Derek White off the bench as the backup to Chris Paul because he's not going to play a ton of minutes. I think that's a viable place for him. Obviously, you're going to get a bunch of articles of anonymous GMs that say stuff like Chris Paul's dream is to play with LeBron James in LA. But I'm like, I don't know bringing in another guy who has injury history.
That's the last thing they need.
And hoping that they all can play X number of games together. It's like, it just doesn't seem like that.
That's the last thing they need.
It's like 3 guys in their ages are like 100 between the 3 of them.
Like Chris Paul is an injury away from being out for the season. Like so far, it's just been a game, like 2-3 games, I don't know. It hurts me to watch Chris Paul play basketball now. I have a love-hate relationship with Chris Paul. I hate some of the things he does, like punching people in the nuts, but I like the mental.
Yeah, Patrick Beverly said that he's like, people around the league would call Chris Paul the dirtiest player. Like if you ask guys in the league, like who's the dirtiest player, like Chris Paul. He's like,
but I also know the value that he brought to OKC, for example. So like there's definitely something to having a Chris Paul on your team. But I think
33-year-old Chris Paul, that's what
I was about to. That's just what I was about to say. If you're expecting Chris Paul to be like, if you're Boston or somebody of that ilk,
if you're ready for him to play 38 games,
I heard somebody say Milwaukee, would be a good fit, and I'm like, no, you keep Drew Holiday just because of the defense, first of all, or you like upgrade Drew Holiday to somebody that can help Giannis score more. But you ain't bringing in Chris Paul for that reason. He can't keep up with them.
But I think Chris Paul in Milwaukee is the same
concept as
Boston. Is like you just move your guy who plays defense and plays the point to just playing defense. But I don't know how that works for team chemistry. You think about, they're talking about should he reunite with James Harden and go to Houston? Another thing, what kind of money does he want? Because I read, and he got waived. I think he still gets 15.8 of his $30 million because he was waived. So he gets
Yeah,
about
that's
half his
guaranteed
money.
for next year, but nothing the year after that.
Yeah. So it's like, is that enough for him to want to go?
Well, according to Chris Haynes, he wants to play a few more seasons and contribute to a championship team. Like I don't know if he's got a few more seasons in him. So like when it comes to contenders or teams that are called contenders, because I don't really believe that one of these teams I'm about to say is a contender.
Okay.
But the two teams that I came up with that have championship aspirations, if James Harden leaves Philly, I could see Chris Paul in helping Philly. At least from the standpoint of mentoring Maxi and I guess enhancing the point guard that Maxi could be in the future. Um, the other team that I said is not a contender is for 1 year only. You brought in Russell Westbrook, so you're willing to do anything. Just 1 year with the Clippers. PG and Kawhi, one last ride. See what happens. That's all I got.
I'd rather bring Rondo back.
For contenders, for teams that are considered to be in championship races and like playoffs, those are the two teams that stood out to me. Now, if you're talking about teams that have no chance in hell at winning a title, I got a couple of those. So, the first one, and I mentioned this for Kyrie Irving as well, is Chicago. And that would be kind of ironic because he'd be probably replacing Pat Beverly, but or on the same team with Pat Beverly. But
if Pat Beverly's not leaving, I wouldn't. We saw LA do it with Russ and Pat Bev, and they all try to dance and sing Kumbaya. I was like, yo, we have YouTube. We've seen your relationship. We have no, it's not gonna work.
All right. So I thought, because I really, 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 really hope that the Wizards draft a point guard. So you see P3's mentorship sort of like how he was in OKC. Maybe Brad Beal finally becomes the player that everybody thinks he is already.
Brad Beal does not care at all. I think he just likes playing basketball. I think he likes having money so he can fund the neighborhood. I know he's big in St. Louis. I know he's big in the AAU world. He's like a coach. I don't think he gives a damn about championships. Like I said, you and I, we had this conversation before.
Right.
It's this idea. Fans want championships. Fans want the championship so they can count it. I heard Chris Broussard today. He was talking about and they were talking about a clip with Chris Paul. He was like, and someone like kind of like half mentioned like the Lakers. He was like, I don't want to talk about the Lakers. He's like, I'm kind of sick of I'm kind of sick of teams like just wanting to kind of just give LeBron all these things so he can win a championship. He's like, there's more teams out there. He's like, I don't, he just, and I get that part.
It's just like the Yankees.
It might be a situation, but with the Yankees, it was like they would just go get the player with their own money.
Right.
It was like, hey, we have money, we'll get you. And it's like, okay, that's the playing field. We have more money than you.
Right.
Or we're willing to spend $300 million on one guy because he's left-handed and he throws.
And now the Mets trying to do it. How about that, Chris?
They'll be all right. They'll figure it out. It's New York. Somebody's gonna get them money. But with Chris Paul, I was talking to my dad the other day. We were talking about guys who might have played an extra season too long. And I was like, I saw a video of Dirk walk in, and I was like,
oof. He looked like he played in the NFL.
And I was like, yeah, I'm like, I don't remember any years where Dirk had ACLs or he missed a lot of time. I don't remember like Dirk just being like injured from like the knees down a lot. When he walks like Earl Campbell walked. And I was like, yo, you were playing basketball, but it was one of those things like, yo, you might want a championship, but you also should want to like really evaluate like what you got going on in your life, because like you might not get a championship team. Like you said, maybe Boston brings you in, but they don't need to.
So I had two more teams. So my other non-contender one of my other non-contenders is Utah. Young team, lots of draft picks coming in. He can be the mentor, adult in the room, potentially get an early start on a coaching career. And then the last team that I thought about, now they already got a point guard who they got this year in a trade, but next year is the last year on his deal. So maybe you do a trade deadline thing. But I don't think I would mind seeing him in Minnesota.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, is Mike Conley? Because I think they're ready to move on. Like, I think they're ready to trade Karl Anthony Towns. I just think that Minnesota is going to be in the middle of a rebuild.
Maybe
if they start
they gave Gobert, they gave up everything.
They gave a bunch of stuff for him, and I think they're taking on that money that
they're
Utah
not getting rid of Anthony Edwards.
Not getting rid of Anthony Edwards. Karl Anthony Towns. Maybe he comes to the table, wants a new deal, and they could be like, "Nah, we're not."
He got maxed already.
But they get remaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I remember Steph got his deal and then he got maxed out. James Harden got a deal, then he got maxed out later. I think Michael Porter Jr. has like a max deal too in Denver. So I mean, you can't go to Denver because they got the point center already.
Maybe he could join James Harden in Houston, and then
realistically the best spot for him was Phoenix.
I mean, it just made the finals 3 seasons ago. Two seasons ago.
So I don't know how it works if you waive a player. I think he has to go to another team and then get waived by that team for you to bring him back. But
there was also some confusion too, because some people were saying that he wasn't going to get waived, like maybe a sign and trade but now that the waiver is out there, like nobody's going to trade for him anyway.
Yeah, no one was going to trade for Chris Paul anyway because his contract was $30 million. It's damn near $800,000 for every year he's been alive.
I will say
no one's going to pay him that.
I will say, not that he shoots a lot, obviously, but during the regular season this year, he did shoot 38 from 3. Which was up from 31 last year. But then in the playoffs, it dipped back to 32. So the season went on, and those legs got tired.
Yeah, so. and the drawback for him is that Chauncey Billups was like a 6'4" point guard who could, if he played an extra year, just his body could help you defensively. His size could help you. Chris Paul, because he's 6'6'1". It might be a defensive liability. That's why I said Boston would work. I don't know if any of these places make sense. I just think Boston would work because they already have everything they need. I'm pretty sure they'll probably move Horford, and what Horford was giving you can get with another activity guy, like another guy, 8-9 years in the league, a Jeremy Grant kind of guy.
It's about time for Horford. It's about time for Horford to go be a family man too.
Like I said, I don't know what the drive and the desire is for some of these players.
Put them out the pasture.
Is the one championship enough? Like, I mean, does he need to talk to Charles Barkley or Drexler or these other guys that didn't get championships in the league? And it's like, yo.
Hey, Drexler did get one.
Oh, he got one in Houston, not bad. But like, because we're going to have the same conversation with Dame Lillard. And on top of that, it's like if you are a team and Dame Lillard potentially is out there and you got to give up some assets, or you could try to get Chris Paul for free, it's like, well, I'm going to potentially hold off. Like if Boston's like, yeah, we can make something happen and we can get Dame Lillard in here, I think they don't move on CP3.
I would like to see Dame Lillard in Miami since that came up. That would be a nice.
I would like Kyrie in Miami. Honestly, I think that'll work.
I don't know where I like Kyrie because after about 30 games, he's going to be upset and tired and want to leave it.
He had reason to be upset in Brooklyn. And we should be able to all say now, like, Brooklyn did not manage their
what happened in Boston?
Assets. Well, Boston, I mean, you see how they treating Jaylen Brown. You see how they treating Ime Udoka. You see what they did to Brad Stevens. You see what they did to Danny Ainge. They don't have a great track record of how they treat people either.
I don't know what they did to
Look how they moved off. Look how quickly they
Udoka
moved
just
off
went
of
to the
Gordon
wrong
Hayward.
keyhole. He just went to the wrong keyhole. I don't
You know
know
what I mean?
what
So it's
Boston
like
did to him.
they did a lot of there's a lot of things they do in Boston. Look what they're doing to Grant Williams.
You try to
He
hit
didn't
me in
get
my
a
soft spot. You try to hit me in my soft
he
spot.
didn't get a lot of playing this year in his contract year. That's why he was firing up all those threes.
Yeah.
So like I said, it just might be a situation where
or
I think the Kyrie being unhappy, I think is overblown. I think he just like a lot of players might be unhappy. I think he just takes that action like, yo, I'm gonna do it.
is Chris Paul going to be on a roster when the season starts? Or is this going to be like a mid-season? Hey, Chris Paul's out there. Who can he help? And he's rested, no injury. I mean, I imagine somebody's going to bring him in just because he's Chris Paul.
No, I don't think so. I think the allure of Kyrie being available, because I'm gonna consider them available because of all the rumors and everything else. Kyrie being available, Dame Lillard being available.
Yep, NBA draft 2 weeks from tonight.
The NBA draft. Some of these teams like Orlando that have 2 picks in the top 12, do they move off of Jalen Suggs and then you try to bring him in?
I think
Does
so.
Detroit move off Cade Cunningham? So
No.
he's like, do they move off Jaden Ivey? Like, I mean,
no.
Like, I'm not saying that they would.
No, I know. I'm just answering the question.
If you're looking at players that can move,
Jalen Suggs definitely is on my radar as somebody who
a lot of
may
point
be out
guards
of
can
there.
move.
And Orlando's trying to, trade 6 and 11 to move up in the draft to try to get into the top 3 or 4. But I don't know who's going to play ball.
Where's Russell Westbrook going to go? Because Russell Westbrook is an aging point guard that doesn't like it's the last few seasons hasn't really, for lack of a better phrase, hasn't contributed to winning. So he would go.
I know PG wants to keep him.
He would if he had to leave LA, he would have to go to one of those teams that, I don't know if he can go back to Washington. Does he?
He could.
Is he one of those guys that ends up you got Trae Young potentially on the move. Does Westbrook end up in Atlanta if they move off of Trae Young? Because if they move off of Trae Young and they want to bring in another guard, would you bring
inefficient guard? Yeah.
Would you bring a CP3 or Westbrook? Well, I would take the younger athletic guy.
I probably wouldn't bring in CP3 just because I don't know what he does for that. He makes every team better, just off of how he sets everybody up and how unselfish he is. But I just don't think at him and DeJounte Murray just doesn't sound like. That just doesn't sound.
It probably operates a lot like him and Devin Booker.
No, because Murray's
He'll
not
get
that
24
type of
shots.
But he's not that type of threat that Booker is, like the triple threat. And, he's more of a Russell Westbrook type than a Devin Booker
that
type.
Because he was sharing the floor with Trae Young?
He's that because he can't shoot.
Is it a Mikal Bridges thing where you let him kind of cook? And then
I don't know because
he starts getting you 30.
I don't know because he had his own team in San Antonio,
But they didn't let him cook in San Antonio. That's why he got shipped off. He talked about that, and I think on the All the Smoke podcast, he was like,
I just think he couldn't cook. Not that he's a bum or anything like that, but everybody ain't meant to be that type of player. He's a good player, but I don't know if he's an all around.
He's good enough to the point where they traded him so they can get the number 1 pick at some point within the 2 seasons that they moved him, because they moved him.
It was this year.
They moved him last offseason, right? So it's his first year in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So they were like, we need to get this 7'5" kid out of France. So Murray on the team is going to cause us problems because he has enough talent to where we would win games.
Yeah, he's talented, but I'm just saying he's not of that level of a Devin Booker.
Yeah, but most guys as an individual aren't really of that level, especially when you're on a terrible team. But if you move them and you give them Chris Paul, but like I said, with all these point guards potentially on the move, I'm not sure if Chris Paul, especially because he ended his season injured, if he just ended the season and it was a poor performance, like they just got beat by Denver,
I will never.
And he just didn't play well.
I will
think
never forgive Chris
people will still
Paul.
give him a shot.
I will never forgive Chris Paul for robbing us in that series against the Warriors when
When
they
he
were up.
hurt his
Yeah,
hamstring,
they were up 3-2. What was going to happen in that series? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I have to know. There has to be an alternate
they
reality here.
they would have won because Chris Paul would have taken the 16-foot, 13-foot
And
two
not let
pointer
them miss 27
and
straight
not
threes.
and not go 0 for 27 for that many minutes, however many minutes it was.
And then
He
they would have
would have,
lost to the Cavs anyway.
yeah, they would have lost to the Cavs, no doubt about it, because Kyrie would have eaten them alive,
Yeah.
and then James Harden would just there's no way James Harden would have been able to match the energy of LeBron James because LeBron James would have been all over.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, too, I think that was the year Harden won MVP.
No, was
No, it
it?
was the year before, maybe. It was somewhere
So
in that window
it
because
was
I know
Durant.
people. Because
No,
I
because
know.
that was a Steph.
Because
Was no, that wasn't Steph year because Steph had
I
Durant.
know people.
I had some technical difficulties.
I don't know what happened there,
Yeah,
but
we only got like 10 seconds. It's good. It happens. It happens when you
yeah,
have a good show, man. Someone's
yeah,
tapping us, stealing all
yeah.
our ideas.
Somebody about to steal my Cheddar Bob line.
Yo, if that happens,
you
I'm a spaz. But yeah,
know,
like I said, I think that year it would have been good. I think that that was the 2017 NBA Finals. I think it was because it went Durant or was it Westbrook? That was the Westbrook. That was
yeah,
the first
he
year,
got
right?
it. Harden got it 2017-18, so that would have been the year after.
Yeah, so that was a year that Westbrook won it with the triple double because Kevin
Mhm.
Durant went to Golden State. So it was
Right.
like the whole, even without Kevin Durant, he's still out here doing his thing, and he averaged triple double for the season.
Yeah. So tripling. The soccer prices are more than tripling from what I've seen.
Yo,
Lionel Messi is on his way to the
10
USA.
times.
So what I saw was for the game on the 21st of July, the cheapest ticket you could get was $29.
Yep.
And now the cheapest ticket you can get is $467.
Yeah, I think for one of his home games, potentially
Well, we don't
the
know yet,
tickets
but yeah.
they were generally $40 to $55 for like a good ticket.
Yeah.
That ticket's $4.95 now.
Yeah. So we don't know when he's actually going to make his debut. That's not public information just yet. So we'll see. They have a game next month, July 8th against DC United, where people think that could be the target, but we don't have an official, this is when he's going to play. So, man, talk about impact,
Talk about somebody listening to the podcast. Because I said this a couple
This
of
was a
months
whole get
ago.
it off my chest.
It was like, yo, everybody just gives a cut to Messi from every team. Just you give him a cut to give him enough money to get to MLS.
And
because talking about money, there's a report that he turned down 3 years, $1.6 billion from a Saudi Arabian team.
That's with a B, y'all.
This will be $533 million a year.
And you know who owns this team, right?
Go David Beckham.
Yeah.
Sir David Beckham.
Because I was thinking about this, and we saw Pele come through and some other high notable international soccer players come through the US, but we
Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
But we weren't where the US is now. I think the US is starting or in the middle of becoming more soccer aware. We've had the success with the women's team in the Olympics. I'm sorry, the World Cup and then the Olympics, and then the World Cup this year, U.S. and England was like the match that you had to see. So he's coming in at a time where I think the public is wanting more soccer. Whereas when Pele and those other guys came, soccer wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, just real quick on the 533 a year. That's $1.4 million a day. Essentially round up to $1.5 million a day. I don't know when you got stationed at Hill, but I was there. I got there in 2011. Okay, so I got there in 2006. We had Real Salt Lake. They used to play at Rice Echo Stadium. That is the University of Utah football stadium.
Uh-huh.
Real Madrid came to. They did like a friendly against Real Salt Lake, and David Beckham was on that team. I think Cristiano Ronaldo was still on Manchester, but David Beckham was on the team. The capacity for Rice Echo Stadium is like 44,500. There was 44,500 people at that game. It was, I mean, the soccer stadium, it wasn't even a soccer field, it was a football field. It still had the football numbers painted on it. So it was like the infancy of Real Salt Lake, but yet we still got this big European team, Real Madrid, led
That's
by
my
David
team, by the
Beckham.
way, y'all. That's my team.
They came out, so the stadium was packed.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier in the in our podcast career, the Messi every team just pitching in because I mean look at the ticket prices. Everywhere, every game he plays, I don't know what the MLS season total number of games, if they play 20 or 30 games, it's going to be like the Michael Vick experience where it's sold out everywhere. Steph
Box
Curry,
office.
LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, when they came in, box office, 20,000 people. If you have 30,000 seats, every seat will be filled. And looking at it right now, it is 10 times whatever you were charging before.
Right. And to answer your
So
question, it's 34 games.
34 games. So there's 10 times the ticket prices. So if you made $1 million off of tickets for your after everything was said and done, you're gonna guarantee you're gonna get $34 million. Just in selling these tickets and everywhere else, because every place is gonna get sold out.
Yeah, home and
Every
away,
single place is gonna
17
sell
each.
out. Sell out. And Messi is going to be great. He's gonna be so much better than your top players. It just does the team have the right guys that can take the pass off that he gives them? Can he make the right pass? Because he's magic with the ball at his feet.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering this other place is going to give him $1.6 billion.
And he's coming off the World Cup.
Coming off the World Cup where he finally won, the tears and everything else. That was a crazy game. That's one of those things that make me happy to have a TV in my office.
Yeah, the only thing we were robbed
I don't think we
of,
watched TV as an office since the World Cup.
the only thing we were robbed of is we were inches away from him against Ronaldo.
Yeah, I don't know what Ronaldo's attitude is like. It doesn't seem like it's that bad when he talks on his own, but it seems like he just has so many falling outs publicly with his team.
He seems like he's got Aaron Rodgers space when he's on the
a little bit, but then you'll see something like he sat down for his post game press conference, and there was a soda sitting in front. There was like two sugary drinks, like a soda, maybe like a Gatorade or a Powerade or something, and a beer. He took them all down, put them on the floor, and he was like, "Drink water." He was like, "You don't need these sodas. You don't need these beers." He's like, "Drink water." So like for him to say just drink water, it just seems like he just has a bigger it doesn't seem like his personality is that big of a deal. But if he came, guys, right now I think he's getting like $200 million from some Saudi team. Kareem Benzema's getting like $200 million. It's another star European player. So it's a lot of guys getting a lot of money. Maybe Messi's just doing a big favor for David Beckham, trying to expand it. Because you're going to get a lot of European players that come. A lot of them come at when they're past their prime, not the tail end of their prime, like their European prime. They come after that's over. After they can't keep up really with the European players, they come to the United States and they have 3 or 4 more years of prime. Like Zlatan Ibrahimovic was talking about, like they were comparing him to another MLS player that played in MLS his whole career. He simply said he was like, where did he play soccer during his prime? He's like, where did I play during my prime? Okay, then. That's how he answers. That's how he answered the question. I love them, but I don't know if his personality was big enough. Like his soccer prowess was good, or football in Europe, and if you knew who he was, you knew it was dope. But people just knew David Beckham. He was everywhere. They had movies, Bended Like Beckham. He was married to a Spice Girl. He's British. Zlatan's is big Swedish dude, and he's a great soccer player, great personality. He has like a wrestler's personality, like a Ric Flair, kind of like Ric Flair, like the Rock
like
persona.
bigger than life.
He has that kind of personality. Like Andrew Schultz said on his podcast that LeBron James sent Ibrahimovic a jersey when LeBron was a Laker. You know, obviously he's a Laker. When he got signed to the Galaxy, I guess LeBron sent Zlatan a jersey, like welcoming him to LA, and he signed it. Like Zlatan signed it and sent it back to LeBron. Like, I don't know how true it is. It could be like an urban legend, but it does fit his personality. Like just the way he answered the question about where
this
he
might.
play,
I don't
where
know
did
if
I
that's one of
play.
those Larry Bird being offended by the white guy thing.
Yeah, it might be one of those fish stories, but it just fits. It just fits the personality. So with Messi coming to Miami, I mean, could it just be a ploy? Is he really done in Europe? Is some European club going to give him a call, or is he even as great as he is? Is he legitimately like past his prime, or has he accomplished everything he wanted to accomplish in Europe and he didn't want to deal with the stress?
Well, this is big time. And real quick, Vegas is still up 2-1 with 9:23 left in the third period. So, Florida, you might want to start waking up. So, does this mean we're going to start getting MLS regularly on ESPN or like on Fox or something along those lines? Because
Now you can get on Apple TV.
well, yeah, it's on Apple TV right now. The reason that I say that, is because that contract was 10 years, 2.5 billion. And here's some numbers. So this is from Christopher Harris of World Soccer Talk. So this was as of May 21st. So that was the closest to now that I could find. So May 21st. Since MLS 360 debuted on February 25th, each episode has been available on MLS Season Pass and as well as free for Apple TV subscribers. So as of that night of May 21st, the live and on-demand broadcast of MLS 360 on YouTube was watched 19,682 times. So I don't know if that's worth 2.5 billion over 10 years, but that number is going to jump and other people are going to come a calling, while this is going on. So we might see MLS on something bigger than Apple TV. The Inter Miami Instagram followers overnight. So once this announcement was made, they went from 1 million followers to 4.8 million. So the impact is being felt. And like you mentioned, 34 game season, 17 home, 17 away. And then you still got tournaments, like that July 21st game is in the League's Cup. So, and the reason that I think that this is so big is because MLS is not even a top 5 soccer league in the world.
I'm not even close.
Yeah, I mean, it might be top 10, but it's probably number 10 or, number 9, maybe.
That's the thing. I don't even think it'd be top 10 because every European country has a league.
I know,
So
and you got leagues in the Middle East too.
So you have African leagues, you have South American leagues, and then you have European.
Yeah, at the very least, you got the Premier League, you got Bundesliga,
you got the Champions League,
you got Liga,
you got the League of Champions, is like a relegation league. Then you got
Liga MX.
Then you have Italy has their own league,
Brazil,
Spain has their own league, Brazil has their own league, Germany has their own league. like the UK has their own league,
But
and
this is
then
the
they
question.
have all of European, like the top teams, like the top 4 teams from the top European leagues, individual country leagues
But this is the
form
question
the
though.
UEFA. Yeah,
Could this lead to MLS improving their standing in the world within the next 10 years?
no, because
No.
you're only gonna get you're gonna get the best
Well, I would
until
imagine that other players might come though.
that. But that's the thing. With soccer, the rest of the world, for the most part, treats soccer development the way countries like Cuba, the Dominican Republic, a lot of these countries, the Caribbean, treat baseball development, and they
Mhm.
look at it like, in the way we as Americans treat football development.
Mhm.
Because, like, my son plays lacrosse and football. We don't pay for the football pads, and most leagues around America, you don't pay for your individual pads. It's
Mhm.
some kind of pot of money that comes from somewhere. Even in baseball, he bought, like, we bought his own helmet, we bought him a new bat. So even in the baseball league, wasn't a lot of equipment. But with football, the shoulder pads and the helmet are always provided. Lacrosse, I had to buy the shoulder pads, I had to buy the helmet, I had to buy the stick, all the equipment. So the way we treat football development, tackle football, is the reason why we have so many talented football players, because we start them out at 4 or 5 years old and then just keep developing them. European countries, African countries, South American countries, they find young kids who are athletes and groom them. Not groom is a bad word,
Yeah,
but
I
like
know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
provide them opportunities to join good quality
Mhm.
leagues,
There's a
and they
structure in
all,
place.
it's a structure. So they go to good camps. So if you're a kid and your parent makes $10,000 a year or $110,000 a year, whatever your denomination is in that equivalent, you get an opportunity to go to this camp if they think you're going to be good enough. If
Mhm.
they think you're good enough, you just play. Like it's like, here's the neighborhood soccer league. We have 10 teams. Oh, we have enough players for 12 teams. Okay, here's the neighborhood soccer league. We have 12 teams now, and they just put all their players, so they develop them the whole time. Like if you put the best 56 NFL players on an airplane and flew them to every country in the world and dropped off shoulder pads and helmets, we would beat every single team 100-0, and we could just run the same play the whole game. Like it's because that's what we've done. So European players, that's how they play. So I don't think the MLS is going to get that spike, because I don't think we'll have enough homegrown players that are as good as the European players, because the 4 or 5 guys who are that good in America, they go to Europe. They play
Mhm.
in Europe already. So guys like Christian Pulisic, Landon Donovan, when he was one of the top players, they go to Europe, and they might not even go to the top teams in Europe. They might go to the top league, but they'll go to like the Detroit Pistons of this European league. So they're a professional team, and you're an American player, but because they have the best league, excuse me, because they have the best league, the best American players play there, and then when the European players or the South American players who play in the European League, when their prime is like waning or is at the end, then they come over here. So what we're
Yes.
gonna get is, we're gonna have to be happy with getting the one-off superstar to come and entertain us for one or
Past
two
this
years.
prime. Uh-huh.
That's
Yeah.
his prime, but still, it's like if
Still better
LeBron James,
than right,
yeah, if
right.
LeBron James went to China right now,
Mhm.
he won't look like '07 LeBron James, but
He might. He
he
might in
might.
spurts. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
in
he
spurt.
might. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, it's like if AD went to a Chinese league right now, like he would dominate. But they got Dwight Howard. So I'm saying,
Mhm.
like, Dwight Howard is, all intents and purposes, an NBA top 75 player all time, but past his prime, past his
Mhm.
championship runs, he's in China. Michael Beasley, China. Bledsoe,
Still
China.
messed up what they did to Marbury.
Marbury, out there in China. J.R. Smith was out there for a while, then he came back.
Mhm.
So it's the equivalent of that. So I don't think
Why
MLS is
Stephon
gonna take
Marbury
him.
ain't have no homeboys?
What do you mean?
Like JR came back to play with LeBron. Why ain't nobody holler at Stephon Marbury?
I don't know. I don't even know how Jr. Like I think there's a documentary about him. I want to watch it on.
And
I believe
props
it's
to
on
JR
Prime.
because he was going to North Carolina A&T and everything, getting his degree and whatnot. So props to JR Smith.
Yeah, he was like I think he was voted like athlete of the year. But yeah, so that I think it'll be entertaining. Um, Ted Lasso, great show. I suggest everybody watches on Apple TV. And I watched his 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was like 36, somewhere between like 30 and 36 episodes. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's a good amount of episodes.
I added it to my list.
They have like the MLS package, and on the show, they got a Nike deal, like this fictional football club, got a real Nike deal. So you go to Nike.com and buy, because you can get it off of Amazon, which is basically just somebody mass producing this unauthorized gear or whatever. Just it wasn't Nike, it wasn't Adidas, it just was like AFC Richmond. They just were making merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now season 3, everybody's Nike. They had so many different combinations of jersey, Nike check marks, and everything else. So it's a buzz, but I don't know if a TV show and a couple players at the tail end of their prime, unless you get them all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you get Messi, Ronaldo, Ibrahimovic, Wayne Rooney before. Like I think Wayne Rooney was a guy. He was from England. He came over. Thierry Henry. If you got to get him in wage, you got to get
Yeah.
3 or
Bring
4
Harry Kane
European guys,
sorry ass over here.
stuff like that. Like you're gonna have to get them, and then on top of that, these guys are going to have to maintain a superstar level, because I think a lot of these leagues, when you have guys who don't wear masks, don't wear helmets, stuff like that, like the NBA is kind of losing their faces. Like everyone's holding on to Steph and LeBron and KD, and it's like, all right, well, who's next? Who's the next guy that's gonna get off the plane in China and it's gonna be 100,000 people at the airport waiting on him? Like Kobe, when Kobe would come to, or Steph, when Steph
Well,
goes to those events,
they hoping that it's Air France. But then he gonna be in San Antonio though.
well, they watched the NBA finals in Serbia the other day. They were showing shots from them watching. It was like 2:30 in the morning when it tipped off.
Yeah.
So if soccer has those kind of stars that these faces, these names that we just recognize, if they keep producing them, and then these guys are legends, and because they have so many different championship opportunities, they're always hoisting the trophy.
Yeah.
They play for their country. They play the
They play for the
CONCACAF.
continent. Yeah.
They play for They play for the league. They play like a mid-season tournament. They play for their country mid-season sometimes. They
World
play
Cup.
the World
European
Cup,
yeah.
European Cup, and every single tournament.
Copa de America, all that.
The Copa de America, CONCACAF. Like, there's so many different tournaments. And if your country just lines up for whatever these tournaments are, you could just keep hoisting trophies. And then you have the football player of the year. And so it's so much exposure. So you just have to be able, can you outbid? I don't know if you can outbid Saudi, that they're out here. Because Kareem Benzema is a good player, but I was playing with him on FIFA probably 2013. And they're going to give him like $215 million a year for the next 3 years.
They still trying to legitimize themselves. WWE just had a pay-per-view there a couple of weeks ago. Like there's another, they do one a year or something like that over there. So they're just trying to legitimize themselves.
They pay celebrities $5 to $10 million to do birthday parties. Sign non-disclosure agreement, but they pay. I think Jay and Kanye did a show in like Saudi Arabia for like $5 million each or something like that. Or they might have done it in Dubai for somebody from Saudi. $5 million each.
$5 million, huh?
Just to do niggas in Paris.
Yo, they gave them running back money.
Yeah, that's more. But yeah, keep in mind, that was one day. They gave
Uh,
him Messi money, like you're here for 3 days because it's $5 million.
yeah. All right, man. So, free agency in the NFL has slowed down. We saw Frank Clark, go to Denver today and all of that. There's still some free agents out there, but
And he
me and
got
Mr.
$7.5 million. Delvin
Yeah,
Cook might get 6.5.
yeah. And apparently Dalvin Cook already posted pictures on Instagram, like, hinting that, he's aching for the Dolphins, but
Yeah,
we
because he
had
wanted to be in Miami.
yeah, that's his hometown. We had a couple of players that we wanted to revisit, a couple of deals in free agency that we wanted to revisit. So, Mr. Logical lead the way.
Yeah, so we haven't talked much football since the season ended because we don't want to have these generic conversations about who's the best, who ranks where, blah 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 blah, and all these things over the
Hey,
top.
why they ranking Josh Allen and Justin Herbert over Mahomes?
Again?
No. I'm just messing with you from that
Oh, woo,
conversation that we had.
set me off, man. I was about to fire off here.
Oh, the Panthers with the goal. We got a tied game with 2:13 left in the third period.
There we go. Is it under review? No, I think everyone's just taking a water break. Yeah. So I like some of the moves. I also like moves where guys go to another team in division just so they can play their old team twice.
Yeah, I heard Dalvin Cook. I heard Chicago was an option, but he ain't gonna go to Chicago for real.
Nah, no one's gonna go to Chicago. Justin Fields has to learn. Justin Fields has to show that he can throw the ball, move the offense. Um, I like okay as a Falcons fan, I like the Calais Campbell pickup. I like the Jesse Bates pickup. The only thing with me is that I'm always weary of the second team paying a guy big money for his performance with another team and scheme. Like if you if you're an interior lineman, defensively or offensively, I think you can fit any scheme if you have the effort. Minus like Albert Hayward is probably like the anomaly.
You had to go there.
I had to,
Uh,
but for the most part, like a guy like Calais Campbell, he's coming in. Jeff Okuda got they trade him for a fifth-round pick. You can match him up with AJ Terrell, and then you have Casey Hayward. So you're working on the secondary, and I like the fact that they paid Bates, and maybe he was I'm gonna say maybe, but like maybe part of his ability to play safety the way he played was because the amount of good quality corners that he had in front of him. So Atlanta not just getting the safety and paying him the big money, they go get they retain Casey Hayward because a lot of times Atlanta wasn't would get a guy in and have him for a year and let him go. Keeping Casey Hayward, going on getting Okuda, having AJ Terrell, getting defensive line help. They got Anyamata from New Orleans, and they went and got Calais Campbell. So I think the way that they're building their defense makes a lot of sense. A lot of these guys that are getting cut that we talked about DeAndre Hopkins. You're going to get an Odell Beckham, Delvin Cook. A guy like Frank Clark just going to Denver. Sometimes it might not be the fit. It just might be the fact that they just had the right number and they coordinated with your agent, but it doesn't look like a build. With
mhm.
Carolina, not necessarily a free agency move, but the way they made their trade moves and then sent their best wide receiver to Chicago. And I'm like, you're going to get a young quarterback. Why not keep your best wide receiver? So I like those moves. I like the Aaron Rodgers to the Jet move. I don't know if it's really going to like pan out to a bunch of wins, but I do like the fact that they have young wide receiver talent. They brought in a couple of guys he's familiar with. It's just he's playing in a tough division. You know, any given Sunday, Miami can beat you with just speed and to his accuracy. Buffalo seems to always be a team that's trying to load up on defensive ends. Like they brought in Von Miller, but they gave him $120 million like last off season. But they're still signing guys. I think they signed like Leonard,
Leonard
like
Floyd.
Leonard Floyd.
Mhm.
So I like Aaron going to the Jets, but they can end up third in their division and have a bad loss to New England. That just kind of makes the season look worse than it actually is, but it'll still be an improvement on Zach Wilson. I like Derek Carr in New Orleans. I like his temperament. Like I said before, I think that's a good move. I think his money's not crazy, like $30 million a year. So like I said, I think the NFL free agency moves, it's just like a good conversation to have because it does really set the tone of, okay, what is this team going to do next year? Because some teams are going to swing for the fences. Somebody's going to pay DeAndre Hopkins a lot of money if they lose a wide receiver to an Achilles and a non-contact drill here in the next month or so. Someone's going to pay him that $19 million.
If it's nothing else, them soft tissues going to show up.
And soft tissue injuries can really, including his own soft tissue injury. Atlanta lost a guy, Avery Williams. Hope he recovers, but he tore his Achilles, which is just, it's such a tough injury because it's like it just happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Kobe tore his, it just happened. Kevin Durant had tore his like probably weeks before, and they just thought it would just heal. They thought it was a strain, and as soon as he gets in the game, he makes a couple of tough moves, and it was like, yeah, no, that's gone.
Yeah, you're done here.
Yeah, so those are the moves I like. Granted, everything isn't all about the quarterback, and I know I talked about my own team, but I just like the way that they built around their big free agent moves. Because sometimes teams can go out and get the big free agent wide receiver and pay him, top free agency money, but not get a left tackle so the quarterback can get this big free agent the ball.
Yeah. Well, I like Derek Carr for New Orleans. I don't know if I like him for other teams, but I like him for New Orleans because they were probably basically a competent quarterback away from the playoffs last year. They had a good defense. They have Alvin Kamara. We'll see if he gets suspended, because he still has that July 31st court date, for that felony battery and everything.
Listen, he better settle by July 30th.
so they signed
Charles Barkley. That's Charles Barkley. He got arrested 2 times. He settled every single one.
So they signed Jamal Williams. I'll get into that in a second. But I think that I like what Atlanta's doing because the division that they're in this year is up for grabs. Any one of the 4 teams besides Carolina probably can win it. And even Carolina could win it if Bryce Young is what people think that he is. And he can have you can win the division at 9-8, maybe even 8-9.
If he keeps it under, if he can get you 20 touchdowns and 9 or less interceptions, you got a shot.
Yeah, because they did pick up Miles Sanders, so he's going to have a bigger role than he had in Philly just based off necessity. So there's that. Like I don't think Bryce Young has to go out there and have a 4,000-yard season or whatever. Like that's not going to be expected or wanted this year. So
don't fumble or throw the game away. I think they got a shot.
But I really do like the Calais Campbell pickup. That's the one that I think stands out to me. Jesse Bates, you just never know. So I never really thought about this until I was playing Madden, where it's like, yo, my guy's a 3-4 hybrid, but I'm playing this 4-3, bro. Like, what we gonna do about this? So you just never know. You just never know.
And that's what I say. Like most safeties are a product of the pass rush and the corners making it easy for them to be like, all right, cool. All I have to worry about is this.
And even though he wasn't a safety,
out of position,
And even though he wasn't a safety, I always think of Nnamdi Asomugha. When I think of DBs in general, leaving one, unless you're he was top notch, but you got your people like your Deions and your Rebuses who just command wherever
mercenaries.
They go. So Nnamdi
I'm a killer. Pay me this money.
Yeah, Nnamdi Asomugha was still very good as a Raider, but then when he went to Philly, it was like, how did this dude even get drafted?
It was bad.
I don't remember any injuries or anything like that.
He ruined. He probably had some soft tissue stuff. No, I think he might have been one of those cautionary tales to where people were saying Detroit shouldn't have drafted Megatron because they had unsuccessfully drafted wide receivers in the years before. people probably were thinking, like, do I pay this free agent corner from another team to come to my team top money after we saw what Philly is currently going through? So I think
Uh-huh.
he might have cost some guys some money because it was like
It was
this.
bad.
It might not be the scheme
He
for
wasn't
you.
in the league very long after that.
He started
You
acting.
know,
He went like he. You can see him in movies on Amazon Prime. He's a good actor,
that's
but he went
crazy.
like he. I think he played out whatever years he had.
At least
I
he
think
had that
they.
wife to go home to. You
Who's
know,
which one was that? Yeah,
Kerry Washington.
yeah.
And so yeah, so like I remember this was probably like 2014ish. I was still stationed at Hill. I went to Walmart and I saw the original 1985 Transformers movie. When we got Ultra Magnus became the leader of the Autobots when Optimus Prime died, and then you got Hot Rod turned into Rodimus Prime. It was just like so awesome, and I got it for like $3.99. That's what the Ravens did with Odell Beckham. They went and got a collectible, low risk, high reward.
You just compared this man to a DVD.
I did. It shot out because I'm going to see Transformers this weekend, so that was just fresh in my mind. But Odell, his last full season was 2019. You know, Obviously he was on the Rams Super Bowl team, got hurt in the Super Bowl,
Caught a touchdown. Shout out to
caught a,
Odell
caught a
Beckham.
touchdown.
I won $750 in that game.
You showed me the video of Baker Mayfield, what I believe to be intentionally freezing Odell Beckham out. So
I think he just was a bad quarterback.
so rumors of his demise were false, but here we are. And I don't know what he is at this point because he's coming off of injuries and he's had a pretty injury-filled career.
He just keeps tearing. I think he's had 2 ACL injuries. Those are the last 2 that kept him out. And then with the Giants, he had a broken ankle.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that
that happened in
facilitated
preseason. Yeah, but
that facilitated his move out.
the good news is the Ravens went out and drafted Zay Flowers. So you have your route runner that can open it up if Odell needs a couple of games to get it right or whatever. Like he's going to be rusty, for lack of better words. But also, what helps out is that the Ravens were third in rushing yards per game last season and second in yards per carry. So, Lamar Jackson, I don't think your goal is for him to throw the ball 60 times a game. They got Mark Andrews, who is that safety valve. So I think you can go the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season and just say, Odell, like, work yourself within rhythm. Like obviously you have training camp, all that stuff. But Odell, work yourself within rhythm. We're going to need you for the stretch run. So as far as that goes, I like the pickup. I don't know what's going to actually happen once we play the games. Like, do you have an idea? Like, you think he's going to have a turn the clock back season?
See what when I talked about like Kyler Murray, you're gonna get ACL surgeries. The timetable has been like 12 months. I think every guy, anyone who's come back early, everyone's like, hey, normally this is a 12-month rehab injury. With Odell coming off of his surgery and then not playing at all last year, but still being in shape so he can. There was rumors that he didn't run for the Cowboys, but he had to be in shape because if you met him, you know what an in shape Odell Beckham looks like. There's plenty of footage of him when he's in shape and he's in his prime.
Yeah,
So you
up
know
on
if
the
he
boats
walked,
and all that.
yeah, if if he walked in and he's 230, you're like, you look a little plump. You normally play around this weight, So I imagine he stayed in shape through rehab, and he's done it before. So he's rehabbed from the ACL before, and he got a whole year off, and then he has a team that's coming. They're probably gonna have a new passing scheme. They do still run the ball well. Lamar is a running threat. So I think, multiple times throughout each game, he's going to get either single coverage look or a soft zone look to where maybe he can sit and break because he was always good run after the catch, really good hands, smart route runner. He was always a threat. So if he is rested, so people say, "Oh, he hadn't played in a year." Like, well, that means he hadn't gotten hit in a year.
And
No,
that's why I said I think it's
no
low risk.
I don't think it's like there's no lingering injuries that carried over from this past season.
Right.
Like DeAndre Hopkins, we're gonna talk. People talk about him in free agency. They're talking about how much time he missed last year. Leading into this offseason was like, oh, they're
Right.
like, cool. I rested. My whole body's rested. So
Yeah, if it doesn't work out, you just don't re-sign him. You just let him walk or whatever the case may be. If it works out, you're a genius. And Lamar Jackson is happy because he got paid and now you got him a weapon. So like I don't see how it can go bad per se unless he just isn't the Odell Beckham that we've known. That's
yeah,
the
but
only
if you
way.
think about the top number one wide receiver rate for the last off season, especially with uh Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill, 28 million to 30 million. The Chiefs got like 5 picks for Tyreek Hill, and then Miami paid him 30 million. So if you're Baltimore, you're like, well, we got Odell Beckham for 18 million for 1 year.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They already wrote his
And the
$18 million check.
well, the 18 million is with incentives. Like it's 15 million.
They gave. I think off the rip, they gave him a check for 15 million.
Yeah,
like,
so
cool.
so that's what I'm saying. It's low risk, high reward. It sounds like a lot of money, but for the caliber of player that he is, he could have commanded more than that from somebody else that was desperate, like a Buffalo, like a Dallas if they didn't pick up Brandon Cooks, so on and so forth. So I think Baltimore got him out of the bin, Rodimus Prime, he's here. So, I like it. Jimmy G to the Raiders. I would like it if they played in any other division, probably. So you're coming to a gunfight against Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and then if Russell Wilson could get his shit together with the quarterback whisperer Sean Payton, who got the same record as Mike McCarthy, then I don't like your chances very much. The good news is,
that's gonna be a tough look.
The good news is, if there ever is good news about Josh McDaniel, because there normally isn't, the good news is he has history with Josh McDaniel and was probably going to take over New England if Tom Brady didn't get his way. So Josh McDaniel probably sees something in him or feels that he can unlock something.
That Jimmy Garoppolo is going to take over?
Yeah, at one point in time.
Tom Brady was never going to let anybody on earth beat him up.
Well, I'm just saying, it was a conversation that Tom Brady had to go to the principal's office and go snitch. So, like Jimmy G was going to take over that team at some point.
This what it was. Tom, I'm not knocking Jimmy G, but Tom was like, yo, we don't need this guy here. Like we don't need you. I don't need to be wasting time watching you guys try to groom a guy that's not better than me. Because Tom won 4 Super Bowls after they got Jimmy G.
Yeah.
Like you're talking about a bad personnel move.
And he just went to Vegas. So, I'm sure Kendra Lust is still there.
He got so many options. But Tom Brady's also there because he's part owner and he's part owner of the Las Vegas Aces.
Yeah. And he also,
like I say, he's going to sign Jimmy G's first check.
Jimmy G also inherits Devontae Adams, the number 1 leading rusher from last season, Josh Jacobs. So, like the Raiders aren't going to be bad outside of the fact that I just don't think their coach is a very good head coach.
Good at all.
Yeah. So so there you got that. So here's a stat. John Daigle, hopefully I said his name right. I saw this in a tweet. So excuse me. So last year, Devontae Adams saw a career high 30% of his targets come in 10 to 19 yards. So this is last season with Derek Carr. So Derek Carr, since 2021, from that 10 to 19 yard distance, has a 52% completion rate, which is 33rd in the league. So, that's all 32 starters. 9.1 yards per average, which is 30th. Or yards per. I'm sorry. Yards per. Yeah. He ran the route 10 to 19 yards. His yards per attempt was 9.1 though. So the route was 10 to 19 yards, but so
he didn't get it to him.
Yeah, so that's 30th in the league. Jimmy G, in that same period, same range, 10 to 19 yards, 64.2%, which is good for fifth in the league. And he got an 11.6, which was fifth in the league. So consistent at least. So long story short, he'll probably be a better fit for the system than Derek Carr was. I think Derek Carr is the better quarterback, but he'll probably be a better fit for what McDaniels wants to do, and they have that history. But at best, Jimmy G is Alex Smith waiting for Kaepernick to come through.
Yeah, Jimmy G, the Raiders. I like it. I think it makes sense. I thought they were in the. Who are they?
You see the other quarterbacks on this roster?
Is it like Stidham and
no Stidham with the Denver?
Yeah, I mean he was going to start no matter what.
Yeah,
then.
So you'll love it. You'll love this. So Brian Hoyer, of Patriot fame, and then they drafted a rookie out of Purdue, Aiden O'Connell. So this is Jimmy G's job, at least for this year. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what happens. What I don't like,
Oakland. I think Josh McDaniels in Oakland,
Vegas
never wanted. My bad, Vegas. Never. I don't think he. I don't know if him and Derek Carr had any kind of bonding or bonding.
Right. I agree.
And it feels that way, but I think that's the MO of McDaniels. Is that he wants to be
he's a
clone of Belichick versus an intellectual disciple. Like you can learn from someone. Like me and my dad are a lot alike. I learned some stuff from him, but I don't try to copy him. I just learn from him and I apply what he's taught me. Then I learn on my own.
Hey, at least he's not as bad as Matt Patricia.
But it's in that same realm. I think he just might be a little bit more personable than Matt Patricia. I think he might just be a little bit more.
I still don't know how he got a job.
More of a politician.
I still don't know how he got the job after the Indianapolis thing.
Because I think he might be a little bit more polished in his political way. Like Sean Payton. Sean Payton is postured up by the football media like he's some kind of guru because he called an onside kick and Peyton Manning crumbles under pressure in big games.
And he called short passes for Drew Brees, which I would have did too.
Even with that, like his claim to fame is that onside kick, and then Peyton Manning threw a bad slant. If Peyton Manning does anything normal, like a normal quarterback, like maybe a Tom Brady in Super Bowl, Sean Payton doesn't get back to one. Yeah, and they had the defensive pass interference didn't get called, but the people posture him up like
Tracy Porter. Shout out to Tracy Porter.
But then people slam on Mike McCarthy, like you said. We said before they got the same record. I think Josh McDaniels is one of those guys that he was able to just kind of talk a good game. He was connected to the right people. He was in the right room. He was playing golf at the right tournaments, and that's how we got the shot. Because no one even mentions the fact that he flaked on Indianapolis the day of.
Right.
If you knew a girl that left her groom at the altar, you would talk about that all the time. Every time somebody mentioned it, like, Tina. Oh, you mean Tina left her dude at the altar? Like you would talk about it all the time. Bride. Yeah, you would talk about it all the time. But Josh McDaniels literally left the Colts at the altar, and no one mentions it. He was terrible in Denver, and the only people that really mentioned it a lot was the odd couple, Rob Parker and Chris Broussard. They talk about it a lot. He drafted Tim Tebow in the first round.
Yeah.
Tim Tebow completed 48% of his passes. So
what I don't like, 3 years, $65 million. Of course, this is the NFL, so you could tear that up like a wet tissue. But
wait, that's a great deal.
I don't like Jimmy G.
You think it's too high?
Yeah.
21 and a half million
for where he is right now and the injuries. Like I wouldn't have gave it to him.
That's 40.
I mean, it's good if you're comparing it to like Daniel Jones or
who got 40 million
or Lamar Jackson. It's a good deal, but
I think Kirk Cousins probably.
So
I think that's a great deal.
So of course I hate quarterback record, but just for the sake of conversation, You know, he's 40-17 as a starter.
Yeah, he's
You
up there
know,
with Joe Montana.
last year, 67.2 completion percentage in 11 games, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And then my last free agent, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, Jamal Williams, you know, of Detroit Lion fame, led the league in rushing touchdowns, you know, this past season. Average 4.1 yards per carry. And let me backtrack for a second. He led the league in rushing touchdowns, and it was also a Detroit Lions franchise record. You know, so of course we had Mr. Sanders come through, so that was surprising to me. He said that he felt disrespected by what Detroit offered him. So he signed with New Orleans for 3 years, 12 million, and 8 of that was guaranteed. What the hell did Detroit offer him?
Man, probably 2 years, 6.5 with guaranteed.
So the reason that I like this pickup potentially is that I don't think Alvin Kamara is out of the woods yet. You know, as far as I ain't talking about jail time, but the league stepping in with some kind of suspension or some kind of discipline. You know, but what I don't like about it is that New Orleans did draft Kendre Miller from TCU. You know, who I think has a little bit of Nick Chubb in him. So unless Jamal Williams is just going to be exclusively your touchdown vulture for you fantasy football fans out there,
Like
you know,
Mike Colbert back in the day.
I don't know what the long-term play is here, you know, because they're not going to cut Kamara if they don't have to, or you know, if nothing happens, like if the league doesn't suspend him,
He just
he
got in
doesn't.
a fight with a dude at a Vegas hotel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Him and his entourage fought.
yeah. So they drafted Kendre in the 3rd round, you know, so like there's some value there to play him and see him do well. This isn't like a 5th round draft pick, so we'll see. So I'm not as big a fan of the Jamal Williams deal as I am. I like the money, but as far as adding him to the team, I'm not as big a fan of that as I was for Odell and how Jimmy G makes sense for Vegas. So this one I'm a little bit on the fence on.
Yeah, and every year, like I said, there's always a team that makes a deal that seems like you made that deal because you just were like somehow you got connected to this person.
Right.
But when you think about it, it's like, was it necessary for you to make that deal? Like, I felt that way when Von Miller got his deal last year. I'm like, did you really need to break out 120 million though? Like, that was the part that kind of I was like, because I wasn't thinking he was going to get a 4-year deal,
Well, I guess
let
it just
alone
depends on who the other.
$100 million.
I guess it just depends on who the other suitors were.
Yeah, but I didn't think he was 4 years. I didn't think he was getting a 4-year contract because I felt like he's been in the league a nice little chunk now, over 10 years, a couple of ACL injuries.
Yeah, that Super Bowl was 8 years ago now.
Yeah, and then you factor in over $100 million. I was like, that was pretty crazy. So I haven't seen any of those deals. I know like the Baltimore re-signing Lamar to a big deal, the Jalen Hurts extension. A lot of guys are getting big money. Eckler was, threatening to make his moves.
Was Philly really going to trade Jalen Hurts for Russell Wilson?
I mean, if you looked at a quarterback that just went 9-8 that has potential versus a quarterback that is, for all intents and purposes, 2 running calls away from having 2 Super Bowls, maybe you consider it.
Super Bowl MVP went to a linebacker
for a pick 6 that got tipped and a blowout. Like, yeah, I mean, that was. I mean, like I said, that was. Yeah, I don't know if that would have been a good move because they would have given up 5. They would have given up 4 picks. They would have given the same deal Denver gave up.
Well, everybody can't be Patty Ice though.
Yo, uh-oh. And ladies and gentlemen, with the goal, the Florida Panthers are now down 2-1 in the series.
Well, there you have it.
The Vegas Golden Knights.
Why they try to mess up my get it off my chest? Bastards. You killed Kenny.
Yeah, I don't have a get it off my chest. I just got a shout out to, it costs nothing to promote your friends. So I'm gonna promote my friend's clothing line. It's called Dirty Geek Apparel. It'll be tagged in the post. So you can kind of see. I want to make sure. So it just has a lot of different styles. You can go to his Instagram page, Dirty Geek Apparel. Like I said, we'll have it tagged. It's a good friend of mine, Javaris Ray. He worked in your space back at the hill, like that SARM scheduling space. Did a couple deployments to Iraq together. We had that Canada smoke coming in over the last couple of days, and it smell a lot like Iraq around here. So just what I'm saying, I want to give a shout out to my friend Javaris Ray, Dirty Geek Apparel. It costs you nothing to support your friends. Even if you spend a little money on it, that still costs nothing. The money you spend for your friend is an investment for them. It's an investment opportunity for you. And just being good friends to each other. I know a lot of people are always trying to post on social media. They have ideas, and they'll comment on your arguments, and they'll comment on like whatever emotional thing you post out there, like, oh, my baby mama did this, my baby daddy did this, or all this negative stuff. Nah, I want to share nothing but positive stuff. I want people to go to Dirty Geek and buy. He also has another aspect. This is Jack. It's no fun when the rabbit's got the gun. He also has the fried chicken. I mean, it's like he's going to do short sets for women this summer, stuff for kids. So Dirty Geek Apparel, my boy Javaris Ray, shout out to him. So that's my get off my chest. Is the shirt that I'm wearing is a shout out to my friend.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And here I am rocking a Ken Griffey jersey, So my get it off my chest was so happy until the Panthers just scored this goal. But but
literally you started it out.
But hockey is one of those sports, like I love it because the fans don't treat it like basketball. So like it reminds me of the NFL in the sense that people don't get upset if the Penguins aren't in the finals or, if the Rangers aren't in the finals, so on and so forth. Like hockey just accepts whoever made it. We were just talking about the Boston Celtics a couple of weeks ago trying to come back from a 0-3 being the first team in NBA history to do so. Well, in the NHL, it's happened 4 times. So Vegas was up 2-0 coming into tonight. So as I was thinking of what would it mean if Vegas won the Stanley Cup, I started thinking fondly of UNLV, back in the late 80s, early 90s, when UNLV was on top of the sport, the running Rebels, and that was the perfect name for them at the time, the Rebels. I think about the Raiders being an iconic franchise, probably nowhere near a Super Bowl, but they're an iconic franchise that makes you think great things and great memories of history that hopefully they can expand on in Vegas at some point. You think of the now Oakland A's, who are probably going to be moving to Oakland in the next couple of years, if not next year. They're one of the iconic baseball franchises of my childhood. So Vegas is coming through on the sports tip when we never thought we would see these major teams in Vegas. So Vegas winning this Stanley Cup, if it were to come to pass, I think is a great sports moment, not only because they are a true Vegas team in the sense that they didn't move there from somewhere else. This was an expansion team that came into the league, made the Stanley Cup, within their first 2 seasons of existence. And here they are again, now up 2-1 instead of 3-0, but they're up 2-1. So, when people talk about it's good for the sports when the Knicks are good, it's good for college football when Notre Dame is good. That might be true. But this right here, if Vegas pulls off this series, and even if they don't, just for the fact that they're an expansion team that made the finals twice, this is great for sports. So appreciate sports, people. That's what I wanted to get off my chest.
That's what it is, man. Like, it's not about getting as many players as you can get to your favorite team or your favorite player or the favorite player you like to talk about. Just let it play out.
Just let it
You
play
have
out.
the rules. You got the overtime rules. You got the regular season rules. You got the amount of games. You got the roster. You got the salary caps in some leagues. Just let it play out.
Yep.
Enjoy it and watch it.
Yep. And then one more quick hockey thing, right? Real quick. Wayne Gretzky, we coming for you.
Man, Gretzky made that record of like 27 games.
Hey,
Gretzky was scoring like 17 goals a game. He was a legend. It was like Larry Bird fish story.
Actually, so right now, Wayne Gretzky broke the record. The record is 894.
We're talking about
1,000,
goals scored.
goal score, 1,487 games. Ovechkin right now is sitting at 822, 1,347 games. So it's not what you think it is. Now, granted, there's a bunch of rule changes that happened, the overtimes and all that stuff like that Gretzky
They
didn't
changed
have.
the rules because Gretzky was
He was
scoring
too
too many
good.
goals.
Yeah, he was too good.
They changed the rules.
But all I'm saying is, you going down, Gretzky.
Craziness. That's how good he was. That they had to change the rules. Like, yo, this dude is literally scoring too many goals.
Hey, they changed the rules for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar too. But so now we changing GOAT rules. Now we changing GOAT rules. See how I mentioned? See how I just had a GOAT moment right there without mentioning those two names?
They had to change the rules for Wilt Chamberlain. They said the lane wasn't wide enough. He was getting the ball too close to the hoop.
And then he led the league in assist.
And it was like, all right, well, let's wide it out.
Then he led the league in assist.
Yo, I've read some stat lines for Wilt Chamberlain that were like video game comical, like 50 points, 35 rebounds, 10 assists.
It makes Jokic look like Pop Warner or something.
It's like people talk about the 100-point game, and I haven't seen any footage of it. Everyone says it's out there, but I never looked. I believe that he scored 100 points in the game, but 50, 32, 12, 12, and 12, like 12 blocks, 12 assists, 50 points. It's like quintuple doubles. Like I can't even
quintuple double.
Quintuple doubles.
But like I think he scored 100 points, but what I do know is that Carmelo didn't score 70.
Yeah, Carmelo scored 62 points. I'm gonna say it every week: 62 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 blocks.
I saw Devin Booker score 70. I saw, Dave Lillard scored 70. I saw Kobe put up 81. I ain't seen no Carmelo score no 70.
Man, because listen, most teams, if you score that many points, you probably lost. It's rare. I think.
Well, Dame won. Kobe won with the 81.
Donovan Mitchell got 71.
And they won. Because they didn't call the lane violation.
Yeah, do have 71 points. The referees at that point, they just became fans. I think Kobe probably could have traveled in the 81-point game, but once he cracked 70 points, they're like, let's see how far this goes.
Yeah. AI scored those 70.
I think James
What's
Harden
Kawhi's career high?
Probably 42 or something like that. I think Luka had a 60-point triple-double.
He did this season, yeah. Against the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, I believe.
Harden had a 60-point triple-double.
Russell Westbrook had some 50 points. I don't know if he had 60.
Yeah, I think he had a 50. Did he have a 50-point triple-double, though?
I believe he did.
Yeah,
look at you. Look at you, Mr. Logical. Kawhi's career high is 41. Yeah, and it was in overtime.
That's so weird. You think he would score more than that. I think LeBron's career high is only like 60.
Yeah, he had the game in Madison
with the mask on.
Yeah.
No, I think he had like 50 something. Because Carmelo has a record.
Well, they both had they both did it the same season. It was something like that where like
Carmelo's 62 is the most in the Garden. That's why when you talk about people say the Knicks being good is good for NBA basketball. I don't know what the record is for points in Indiana. at whatever stadium they play.
Right.
I just know like Madison Square Garden, the record is Carmelo with
LeBron
62
scored
points.
61 against Charlotte.
And that was in Miami.
Yes, that's when he was with Miami. Yep.
Yeah, and that's what because he played with the Mavs. I remember Shaq's dropped 60 on his birthday against the Clippers.
David Robinson had 71.
It was like in the game he was trying to get the scoring title.
Yeah.
I think George Gervin had a 70-point game doing it. It was. I remember watching it growing up. I think it was two guys, Gervin and another guy. They were going for the scoring title, and they both dropped crazy numbers that day. Like one guy had like 59 or 60, and then Gervin had like 67 or something like that to like beat that guy out by like 0.3 points or something like that.
I would have thought the way people talk, and I know I'm being a little facetious right now, but the way people talk, you would have thought KD dropped 70.
I mean, 70 is crazy, but does he
no,
have a
I know, but
game?
you know, I don't think so.
A lot of guys
career
have
high
60.
might not even be in the 50. Well, he had 55.
A lot of guys like Dame. I think Dame has a 70 and a 60 this year.
Yeah. KD's career high.
Booker got the 70.
Yeah, his career high is 55. And
I think Giannis probably got you a 55, 50
bad
something.
because KD's 55 happened just last year. So
it's hard to remember some of his games.
Yeah, because like everybody talks about this great scorer that he is, and I'm not saying that he's not, but it just doesn't seem the same. Like when you
Kyrie got you 55 against Orlando.
Yeah, he had a 50 year. I want to say 57 against the Spurs, maybe at one point.
The Donovan Mitchell game was impressive because I think and same thing with Kobe. I think Kobe got 55 in the second half.
He did. He sure did.
I think
Kyrie does have a 60.
That was a game against Orlando, right? Or did he get 60? No, he got a 50. I know he got a 50 something against San Antonio.
Yeah, he had a 57 against San Antonio. That was his previous career high before the 60.
And the 60 he got against Orlando. I think that was the Kobe year.
All right, quick pop quiz before we get out of here. So Kyrie's 60 points was a franchise record for the Nets. Who had the previous franchise record? And it was not Brook Lopez. Because I know he was the all-time Nets leading scorer and all that.
Darren Williams.
Correct.
Really?
Yeah. 57 points. Sports Reports is ordered. Come get this knowledge, y'all.
Yo, I figured it was somebody that wasn't like a big name. Darren Williams, he just decided, I'm not gonna be good no more. I'm gonna play hard, but he was like, I got this money, I got this light-skinned Caesar.
Come get this knowledge, y'all, and don't cheddar bomb yourself. You know what I'm saying? And if you're ever looking for any movies, of course, Transformers comes out this weekend. But go grab that 1985 Rodimus Prime.
Yo, watch Layer Cake.
Ted Lasso.
Craig. Get Ted Lasso in your life. I'm watching Silo right now. It's another one on Apple TV.
MLS on Apple TV. Get with it.
We're not sponsored by Apple TV yet, but give it time.
Get with it. Sports Reports is ordered.
After Party on Apple TV.
That is Mr. Logical. I am 25. And America, we love you. Peace.